Hey everybody, so today we have Lindsay coming in. She's agreed to let us kind of capture the session, and I wanted to give you a little bit of background about her and what we're working on. So I've worked with her we did a 15-minute consult last week just to kind of see if we were a good fit for her, and she's primarily having shoulder pain, which affects her with some of her overhead lifting. So Lindsay is a member at our CrossFit gym here. She also is a snowboarder, so that drew her to work with us. So what we worked on last week was giving her a couple ideas of how to get some relief for her shoulder and give her a little bit of some stability exercises. What we're planning on doing today is following through with some of that soft tissue work, making sure everything is moving freely in that area, and then progressing her stability programs so that she can get back into more lifting. I talked to her, emailed with her earlier in the week, so I know she's had some symptom relief, so I expect that we'll be able to move forward a little bit with that. And then because her particular lift that she notices is with overhead squats or like a snatch lift, a lot of times when people are having shoulder pain, it has to do with something else. So we're gonna at some point look at like her thoracic spine, her hips, her ankles, and we'll see if we find anything there. This is super common that people have one injury, and then once we get that to calm down and we look into other areas and what they're functionally doing, we see that it might be caused by something else. So because she's a snowboarder, right, I'm interested in her squat and how she looks through her hips, how she looks through her ankles, her knee stability, her trunk stability. So I expect that we'll get into some of that today. And then she's kind of the right idea of a person that she has this thing going on with the shoulder, but we're gonna look at other parts. So it's important to look at the whole body, not just look at a single individual part, because it is a full movement, and we're gonna make sure that she is ready for snowboard season, and we look forward to working with her for that. All right, so let's have you stand. We'll kind of screen back through some stuff first. Right arm, thumb forward and all the way straight up. Okay. Any pain at all up here?
No, not right now.
If we give you a little pressure?
Yeah. Definitely not great.
Where does that bother it?
Like right in the top.
At the top.
But it's also more soreness.
All right, you can bring it back down. Some did you say like muscle soreness? Okay. Thumb out to the side and then all the way up. Any problems with that? Any problems there? Can we give you a little pressure? How about that?
Good.
Good? Okay, cool, you can relax it down. And then let's just see the left arm all the way up to the forward and then all the way up to the side. Good. And then up to the side. Okay. And let's check the rotation. So left thumb up your back. Good. And then switch sides. Okay, so we're still working on that. Okay, and now let's see between your shoulder blades here. And then to the side. All right, that looks good. All right, so you can come lay back on your back. We'll work on that rotation some more. Okay. So when you're doing this stretch across your body, still getting this, or is it more like by your shoulder blade?
It's just like a stretch here.
Okay, but just a stretch?
Just a stretch.
Perfect, okay.
I'm also working on pulling my shoulders back during that one.
So try not to let it really fly out.
Because I don't feel stretch if I don't hold my shoulders in.
Right, because you have really great motion here. That's the one thing. It's improved though.
Well, it's nice that I'm not having pain right now. Honestly, at this point, that just feels good.
And so we're still working on this stretch into the internal rotation, but we worked on these ribs a little bit too, right? So we can make space for that collarbone. So when you're lifting up your arm, right, everything's just kind of moving up with it. It kind of gets pinchy in there. So we're just kind of giving you more space. And we'll work on more strength stuff. You ever get neck pain with it too, or is it more stay on top of the shoulder?
It's more on top of the shoulder. I mean, I have to crack my neck a lot.
You have to?
Yeah.
Do you have a neck history with anything? Besides the relief of cracking?
No.
Okay. Nobody ever treats the front of their neck, right? You always think of the neck, the back, right? These muscles in the front can create a lot of tension, and they change the way your shoulder blade moves, and that changes the way your arm moves. Okay, so that feels good. I think maybe just a little bit of tension in your neck, but really not any joint stuff. It's even that right, you have trouble just turning this all the way off and relaxing it. There you go. So when you go to initiate, right, you probably turn on all this stuff to help stabilize. And some of that is going to be the stuff we'll build on today about that lower part of your shoulder blade getting stable. So let's have you come onto your left side. Shoulder blade set back, right? Start with parallel, and then rotate up and back down. Do a little bit less, right about there, right? Because we don't want that shoulder blade moving forward and back. We want that to stay stable, and it should just be this like fatigue in the back of the shoulder. So at home, how many of these were you doing? We're doing sets of 10. Yeah. All right. So let's say you do it a set of 15. Obviously, we're just trying to get a little more endurance out of it. And we'll just go through one set of them today, right? But your homework will still be 2 sets, but that way we have time to add on new stuff.
Okay.
All right, so come stand up. I'm gonna keep that weight. All right, so we had you doing this way, right? So we're just gonna add on a little bit to that same weight, but kind of grab that with your thumbs too. And then you're pressing your arms out, but it's not pressing your arms out, it's squeezing your shoulder blades back. So the band is really just a cue to keep this back. The band should not be a hard resistance. Let's have you come a little bit higher, so just above shoulder height. So I actually want you to come forward a little bit with your arms. You're a little too much to the side with this side. Part of that makes it more efficient is that you have this cueing to stabilize your shoulder blades, right? So it does give you a little more strength, and you're a little bit more in line with your shoulder blade now, which is what the intention of this is, right? Your shoulder blade doesn't sit flat, it sits on a rounded rib cage, so it's kind of angled a little bit. So we're kind of in that line. Keep the band, palms up into your, pulling across into a T. Straight here, yep, perfect. A little like 2-second hold there, and just 10 of those. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna cue your shoulder blade back first, right? So that's a little too much, relax it a little bit. Yeah, there you go. And then straight out to the side with your hand, right? And even that is a little bit less, right? We don't wanna overexert that, right? So it's more that this shoulder blade is pulling back, that's lifting the arm. Good, that's better, right? And then relax it back down. So you're gonna do a 5-second hold. We're gonna go for 10 of those. And it's just kind of that isometric hold, yep. We're not gonna add weight today, but of course you could add weight a little bit slower on your Mississippis. So when you're getting to this part where you're getting like that little bit of that like trembling, right? That's good, that's what we're looking for. We're trying to get through that shaky phase and eventually becomes a smooth contraction. Because we're trying to build endurance, we're not really trying to build power right now, we're trying to build like coordination and stability. So that would be a T shape. When you're doing the next one, you do a Y, you're kind of gonna reach kind of towards the outlet there. So thumb will be up as you do that one. Same thing, set the shoulder blade back a little bit. Good, and then forward up. Yep, try to be elbow straight. If you need to relax a little bit, this should not be pinchy or anything, it should just be like, same thing, fatiguing. 5 seconds, 10 times. So your biggest things, Lindsay, your movement looks really good, right? Like your motion is full, right? You don't have anything like that's stuck or sticky or tight. It's more like stability and timing and coordination. So we did some tissue work here, and then we had you doing some on your own. We'll keep up with that a little bit, but it's gonna be more the strength training component. So we're gonna kind of layer on some exercises with you. All right, so you're gonna be underneath your arm. It's gonna be similar to what you're doing laying on your side. Back just a little bit, there you go. Good, and then, yep, only from there, and then rotate out, and then only come back to where you're perpendicular, or parallel to the wall. There you go, perfect. So it's very similar to the one you're laying on your side. We're just moving into a standing position. We're just gonna do 1 set of 10 of these. Turn around and face the other way. Same idea, you're just gonna pull towards your stomach now. You probably don't need to go quite out so far. Because once you start to do that, then that shoulder blade really starts to move. We're kind of training in a stable position for now. I'll give you a band to work with, and then you'll just have to like find something. Or of course you can do it in the gym, right? Attaching to the rig as your warm up. I think this one. Right, so be around your back, and then like almost like you're tackling somebody, like a big hug, right? So with this, I do want your shoulder blades to move forward with it, right? You're pressing the shoulder blades forward, okay? Yeah, that's it, yeah. Right, so that's pulling the shoulder blades forward, and that's what we're training. So one more. We're just gonna use the one side of the band here, and you're just gonna pull one hand up, one hand down. 1 and 7, not like 2 and 8. Right, so kind of be like by your pocket and almost overhead, yep, and then back here. The emphasis is really on just like this rhythm and this timing of pulling these shoulder blades back, right? So you're good when you're pressing overhead, you're good when you're pressing down. So we looked at one, relieving pain first, right? And then the timing of that shoulder blade, because it's gonna relieve the pinching in the shoulder you're getting. You were working too much with your upper trap, right? So we're trying to work on relaxing that and getting some of this other stuff. The same muscle that's here, a great way that we like to work on that is a reverse bear crawl. right? So we're gonna actually crawl backwards, drive that motion, right? So our brain really likes that when we put weight through our arm. It's really easy to process. So I really want you to exaggerate that shoulder blade shifting upward. Don't worry about what your legs are doing. They'll figure it out. Okay? Like don't try to be too coordinated. It'll just happen.
Okay.
You're good at this when you were a kid, so your brain just knows how to do it. Those are awesome. Any problems or any pains with that? So take a break, we'll turn around and we'll come back the other way. So our exercises that we all the way went over was, we kind of progressed your stability work here with adding a little bit of the band. We increased your numbers with some of the rotation stuff. We moved you into standing rotations, and then in your belly we're doing a T and a Y. Right. We worked on this big hugging, and we worked on these bear crawls. So you mentioned something about that tricep before. So let's come back to lay down. Let's work on your tricep a little bit, and then we'll go over a stretch for that too. Okay. So you can come back onto your back. How did your left shoulder do with everything?
Good.
Okay. And challenging at all, tiring at all, or just easy on the left?
It's pretty easy on the left.
So when we're working on those rotation ones, that's where specifically about your rotator cuff, right? And your rotator cuff's job is to pretty much keep the ball in the center of the socket, right? It kind of acts as a stabilizer. Mm-hmm. So your movement muscles are the big muscles on the outside, right? The muscles that you see, right? So those power muscles, those movement muscles, those are fine, right? Those are working really well. It's those little stabilizing muscles that are not working as well. Yeah. And when that doesn't work as well, the ball doesn't stay centered, doesn't stay on the axis, and then you get pinching, right? Which is what we're working on. So really kind of stabilizing that shoulder blade and then stabilizing the rotator cuff. Are going to be important. The reason why we have to do the shoulder blade is all the rotator cuff muscles are on the shoulder blade, and the shoulder blade doesn't really articulate like other joints. It kind of floats over your rib cage, and it's all muscles that stabilize the shoulder blade. But as long as you're doing all the exercises and you're comfortable with them, you're pain-free with them, but you're fatiguing with them, that's perfect.
It was a nice progression to not have pain with them this last week.
Yeah, that worked well. I mean, we kind of had a quick session last week.
Yeah. I think it was just because I took some time off too. It really helped to not push it too much. And I did a lot of modifications just so I wasn't having any pain and flaring anything.
So with everything, when we're looking at modifications, like you can try to decrease the speed with things, or decrease the range of motion with things. Mm-hmm. So like you were talking about before, doing like the incline, like a dumbbell press was okay. A barbell might be irritating, but a dumbbell you have a lot more options available, right? You can change your hand position, you can change your width, your rotation. So those are always good ones if you're having trouble with like barbell overhead stuff. Maybe dumbbell stuff gives you an option to get into a slot that's comfortable for you, so you can still do the motion. And of course, talk to the coaches about other modifications. So that up downs instead of burpees, that was a good call.
Yeah, PT is nice to like kind of just focus on what I'm doing.
So that's an important part about like having it scheduled and having it, because it makes you work on it a little bit every week. And then we kind of keep you accountable and we move forward together, and eventually teaching you that you know how to solve this problem, you know what it is, and that you don't need to be here all the time, right? I know it's a good time, but I'm sure you have other things you'd rather be doing.
No, it is nice to come in.
We do kind of include it in like the gym programming a little bit, like twice a week, like little ski and snowboard specific stuff. Mm-hmm. It's more like finisher work, or like the the active rest work, some of the warm up stuff. So it gives you some ideas of like, okay, these would be good things to like work on a little bit. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun, like start of the season. Yeah. All right. So for this one, we just want to get up against the wall here, kind of this tricep stretch, but you can kind of get into like the side of your trunk and stuff here too. And then if you just kind of like bend your knees just a little bit, you're gonna get a little tractioning with it too. So see if that kind of hits in the tricep through the armpit into the side of your trunk.
Oh, it feels good.
Yeah. All right, so like maybe like 15 seconds, just kind of relax there. All right, so let's see, right arm forward and all the way up. And we give some pressure here. That's still painful to give that a little extra pressure? No. Let's go ahead and straighten out the elbow all the way. And how about that?
It's a little pinching.
A little bit there, okay. Cool, and then thumb out to the side like a big snow angel, all the way up. Okay, you get the pinching in that same spot on the top. Just with the forward motion though? All right, let's see what this left hand up the back, let's recompare those. All right, cool. So we're closing that gap a little bit. That's gonna take a little while. Part of that is gonna be shoulder blade stability. You can relax that. And then that flexibility along that back. Let's give you another idea to work on that. Let's have you lay on your back here. All right, so we're gonna use the ball. We're gonna get it right in like almost like where the seam of a t-shirt would be. So right into that gutter behind the shoulder there. And you're gonna put some pressure on it with this hand. Roll it around, see if you find something in that like little trench there. And when you stay on it, then you're gonna rotate that arm forward and back. Right, so a lot of shoulder pains actually get resolved by like cleaning out this back of the shoulder. It seems like you're starting a little trouble with that rotation. Let's have you work on this for like 2 minutes for now. Good discomfort, right? It's a little uncomfortable, but it kind of feels good. It's not exactly pain, right? And it should stop when we stop. If you need more pressure, you can do that. If you need to roll a little bit to put more pressure, you sure can. Right, so the more pressure, the deeper the penetration of it is. Obviously, this is stuff that might be helpful in the left shoulder too, right? You can play around with that at some point. Let's roll over onto your belly. So let's see like just a basic, best you can push-up.
Oh boy, okay.
So we see a couple things. You can relax for a minute. You have a little bit that you kind of wiggle through your trunk a little bit, right? But I think part of it is your setup. So when we're doing your push-ups, your hands are like a little bit way back, right? So we want to be shifting over a little bit, so the weight is slightly in front of your wrists, like not straight through, like right here, right? And you shift forward just a little bit, right? And there, you try to do your push-up here, right? So you're just not used to that pattern. So let's make it easier for you. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna put your arms through there, and that's gonna be just above your elbows, and then try that. That's gonna, give you a little push, and it won't let you make sure your arms don't go too wide. Yeah. So go one more time. All right, cool, take a break. So that's harder for you, strength-wise, but it looks way better, right? You didn't have that little wiggle, you didn't have...
It's actually easier because like I can feel where I'm supposed to be instead of trying to do them without knowing where my body is.
Right, so some people are gonna flare their elbows out too far, and some people are gonna actually keep them a little too narrow, right? We kinda wanna be just a little bit out with them. Your fingertips are pointing forward, that's good. The rest of your setup looks good. Think about squeezing your back, your butt, your thighs, right? We want to make all that stiff because the motion comes from here. It shouldn't come through like your waist. So let's see a few more of those because I want to check your elbow position as we do this. Once more. All right, cool. All right. Those look pretty good, right? So those are good scaled push-ups that you're getting good technique with them. The nice thing about the band, besides that it like gives you a little lift of your weight, but it stops you from like, you can kind of push your elbows out a little bit and kind of keeps them in. So you get some driving force to that. So that's a good progression for you. Or the other one I like is come stand up, is when you do them like at a box or a tabletop, which we prefer over kneeling push-ups, because kneeling push-ups, then you already have a hinge in your hips, right? We want to learn to like move with your hips straight. So let's see what you look like here at a modified push-up. Belly, thighs, butt, nice and engaged, right? So all the motion's coming from here, right? You're not getting that wiggle here. And we want to find that sweet spot that you can be successful but not failing. All right, we want to have challenges that we can do, not challenges that are overwhelming. Those all look good. All right, we're gonna relax it once more. All right, so that's about your limit, right? You get a little bit of that wiggle through your trunk when that happens. So we kind of want to be in between those 2 points. Yeah, that's like it, right? That's like where you lose your good form would be right below there. So when you're doing them, we'd rather you have a modified, even lesser repetitions of good ones than like these messy ones that you're getting really good at, right? Because that's going to be, again, that's going to be your ceiling. But if we can build a better foundation, you're going to be able to build a higher ceiling afterwards. So we like that. So we'll try them out this side. Let's see if we get any wiggle right here. Try like, yep, 3 more. Right, we just want to really kind of dial in, because then we can measure this. Like if you know you can do so many at this height, well, if we go a little bit lower, we know you've progressed. Yeah, those look good. They look challenging, but you look in control. So at about that like 22-inch, 23-inch mark or so. Right, so like with there's one box that has the 24-inch side. That's probably your spot to be on right now. And then start to progress those. So we kind of covered a lot today. We have your new exercises. So we added one lacrosse ball thing for the back of the shoulder. We went through all your stability things that we went through. We went through your tricep stretching, which you're going to do after you do the lacrosse ball stuff. And we kind of dialed in your push-ups a little bit. We're not going to work into too much overhead right now. We're just trying to let that be calm and comfortable. But if we can get better at this position and then get better at this position, we're gonna get better at this position, right? So just kind of grading that up. Any other lifts or movements that you're having trouble with?
Just overhead stuff, which I've just been completely avoiding.
All right, so let's try to intentionally challenge it, right? I think you're in an okay spot to do it, just it's gonna be a matter of load and maybe modification. But I think with a lighter load, you're gonna be able to do that motion comfortably.
The overhead presses are not the thing that bothers me. The thing that bothers me is the overhead squats with that position, like kind of far back.
All right, so those look fine as long as you're in a good load and you're not like too heavy where you're doing one of these things, right? So let's see what your overhead squat position looks like.
Here.
Okay, go ahead again. So let's play around with this a little bit. Yeah, I was gonna say rotate your feet forward a little bit more.
To drop my butt, I usually put a ball on it.
Yeah, probably get just a. All right, so talk about your ankles. Do you have history with that?
Yeah, but it's mostly my hips that bother me when I go down.
All right, so your hip motion looks full, right? I feel like you're not shifting with your ankles enough, and then that's causing you to like reach your arms back too much, right? So instead of being like loaded, you're kind of like hang out in that end range. All right, let's screen through this stuff to help make our next plan. So let's go over by this orange tape here, and we'll put your toes to this line. Keep your heel down, try to drive your knee to that wall. Let's back up for a second. Let's get to that back edge of the tape. There you go, just so we're consistent. All right, so a little bit tighter on that left side. All right, let's say you lay on your back. We'll screen some hip stuff quick too. Yeah. So if you're doing like a regular overhead press pretty well, right, you have the range, you have the stability to do that, but you struggle with like an overhead squat, right? Something else is coming along with that. Overhead squats are great because there's nowhere to hide. Right? You have to be good at your ankles, your hips, your thoracic spine, your shoulders. Do you get any pinching your hip as we come up?
Yeah.
When does it start?
Like right there.
Right, so whatever you squat lower than this, right, you probably shift and move a little bit. This is pretty low. This is low enough to do a quality rep overhead squat, but if you're bottoming out, right, it's probably irritating a little bit. That's kind of tight, but we'll check more into that. Notice this too, right? This rotation is pretty good, right? When we check it on the right side, I'll come back and check it again, but it's not quite as good. So there's a little bit of something going on with that right hip. Remember that rotation that we just looked at, right? This. I feel like it tightens up like right away, right? And like the rest of your body wants to like hide from that, right? Yeah, you're right. So it's happening when you get into the bottom of your squat too. So let's work on that a little bit, and that'll change the way you move there. Goes in here,
really?
Right? People come in with like a shoulder thing, and like we get it calmed down, it's moving better, and then we start looking at something specific like an overhead squat, and we're like, well, it's not your shoulder that's the problem, right? Something else going on.
Yeah.
But then it's usually what we expect to see, right? And I ask, and you're like, oh yeah, there's kind of a thing going on with that hip. Right? But you didn't think it was relevant. But like, that's right. It's my job to know that. So this is definitely affecting you when you're in an overhead squat, right? You're doing like power snatches. Are those okay? Where you're not squatting?
Yeah, no, those are fine.
And when you get into that position and you're standing up, you're okay. Right? So it has to do with what happens when you get to the bottom of your motion. So this is why we have to like look at everything, right? Because your goal was like, get rid of your shoulder pain, of course, but to like be able to do workouts and not be irritated. But if we only looked at your shoulder, we wouldn't have solved it, right? We obviously start with your shoulder because that's what you're looking for relief, but that happened pretty fast, right? In the first session, and then our stuff today and just like kind of layering on like your shoulder feels really good, right? It just needs to be a little bit stronger. But now we talk about like this, right? This is getting more to the depths of things. So we're just doing a little gapping in here, giving it some space, which just feels nice and lets it move nice and easy. Yeah, good. All right, so that's a retest, right? All right, so now that we open that up, let's lay on your left side for a moment and bring your right leg forward up to like 90 degrees here. Good, just like that, good. And you're gonna lift your foot up, so you're gonna rotate your leg in and back down. Try not to hike your hip too much, right? So just let the thigh roll, so it might be a little bit lesser motion. We're gonna try 15, but you might get tired sooner than that. So back up for a second. So bring your foot back to the middle, good. And don't shift forward, just squeeze your butt and push hips forward. That. And does that stretch in like that top, like couple inches of the thigh there?
Yeah.
Right, that's what we're looking for. All right, so relax your butt, move your foot to the outside, and now do that same thing. Is that more of a stretch when you do it that way? Less of a stretch or the same?
Less of a stretch.
Okay, so let's move your foot to the opposite side then and see how that is. And more or less there?
Less.
Okay, so let's go back to the middle position then. It seems to be the best stretch for you. And just holding that. And it should just be those couple top inches right there. So let's have you do 3 air squats just to kind of see how you're feeling, and then we'll give you the bar. Okay, all right, so let's try the overhead squat and see what that feels like. All right, so there's a little bit more to work on with your ankles, right? You see how you kind of like get that like torquing there?
Yeah.
How did that feel in your hips though?
Good. I just can't get my butt back enough.
Yeah, and I think part of that is because your shins and knees don't actually come forward enough, right? So you're trying to like counterbalance that. So I think there's more work to be done on your ankle stuff, but let's say we start working on the hips a little bit, and then we'll add in the ankle stuff going forward. But your shoulder position looks really good. I think it's just a matter of cleaning up everything else so that the overhead squat is more comfortable. What I'll do is, because we kind of have a pretty good program now, is we'll give you, like, it'll be 2 groups of exercises, and you'll do 1 each day. So try to do them each like twice a week. So like 4 days a week, you're trying to like do some therapy stuff. Life happens, right? If you miss them, get back to them tomorrow. I'd like to have you come back in next week just so we can kind of get this built out quickly, because I think you're going to respond pretty fast once we add in all the parts.
Yeah.
What's your schedule look like?